And from sort of consulting with McKinsey and whatnot, how on earth did you transition over into the pet space?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been wanting to get into the pet space actually for a long time before I was even at McKinsey. When I was at business school, I explored a couple of different businesses. One of them really close to launching. Actually, we were getting ready to launch it, but I've actually been trying to get in the pet industry since 2011. So it's not as I'm not as new to it as I seem. It's more just the businesses I tried to first launch didn't quite have the economics or the execution risk that I was like really excited about. And so it's just been something I've been interested in because number one, I thought it'd be fun to work in the pet industry, big fan of dogs and all that. But I think more importantly, it's a really exciting industry. It's growing. There's a lot of fun stuff and a lot of opportunity there.
And what was the genesis for the Revol Crate? Was it solving a problem that you were having, or you just looked at crates and said, these things are goddamn ugly, I'm going to do something better?
Yeah, it was more the latter, as we were kind of just thinking like, where to play first. And we realized, yeah, these things are so awful. Why are they so awful? A lot of people have them. Why can't they be better? And, we look at like a lot of these adjacent consumer product industries, like the juvenile baby products, where like strollers went from these cheap, nothing Fisher Price strollers to these, $1,000 up a baby strollers that are all over New York City and other big cities. When, it's like, why are people spending all that money on their kids when, all the indicators say that the same thing's happening in the pet industry. And so we started to say, like, I think the expectations of product has increased from a quality, safety, transparency, usability standpoint. And so we said, there's just a big opportunity. And then the more we looked, we realized that that opportunity is not unique to crates. It's actually a whole kind of like problem with the pet industry in general. And so our vision is actually to create a brand that's, kind of cross product, and very much a lifestyle innovation brand. Think like, a Dyson or a Simple Human, which elevates kind of like what simple products can be.
Having shipped many rescue dogs myself, because we live in Puerto Rico and we used to foster and help get dogs up to the States, I know airlines have certain standards that they adhere to. Does your crate, have any travelers had any issues getting their dog on board a plane with your crate?
You cannot use collapsible crates for air travel. That's why you always see those big plastic carriers at airports, because they're not collapsible. It's just FAA regulation. So metal wire crates, our crates, are not usable for that.
And how did you create the first prototype for the crate? Did you use cardboard cutouts or something?
No, we used 3D printing, CNC machining, molds and stuff like that to create a prototype. The prototyping process is pretty complicated, actually. It's basically our first prototype was a fully functional, looks like prototype.
From there, did you approach manufacturers to, what's sort of the process, I guess?
No, we did a very different process. So my co-founders and I are not technical. I mean, I have a mechanical engineering background, but I'm by no means a product designer. Mm-hmm. What we did was we did the research, initial research. We kind of identified the opportunity. But we knew that we needed a lot of technical help to bring something like this to fruition. So we actually first, we went out to go find an industrial design firm to do the design work. Not even the engineering initially, but just the design work. And so we did an RFP. We actually reached out to almost like 55 design firms across the country. We got proposals from about 20. I think we met with or interviewed like 5 to 10, maybe 7, I think it was. Shortlisted 3, and then we ended up with a firm in Boston to do our design work. They did some more research for us, some more ethnographic interviews, like in-home interviews, like to confirm or better understand the insights of our findings. They then took like months, 6 months or so to come up with the design concept, the options, how it would work, and then build out the detailed design. And then we started to source a manufacturer, which was pretty hard. That took a very long time. But we found one that was able to do it. And we started to work with them for the detailed engineering work. And we leveraged their internal design team to actually create the prototypes.
And is the manufacturing company here in the States, or was it something you had to travel overseas to find?
overseas. We first tried to get it manufactured in the US, then we tried Canada, then we tried Mexico. We ended up having to go to China because either the companies that would work with us were too small and unsophisticated or didn't have machinery big enough to do what we need to do, or the ones that could do it were just like, oh, we usually deal with like, massive car companies and stuff like that. We don't really work with startups. And your volumes are too low to even kind of start the conversation.
So did you actually have to travel to China to inspect the facility and everything, or was it something done sort of all online?
Both. So, I've been to China a bunch of times. We have 2 factories out there, one for each of our products. And, you definitely have to go out there. We have a third-party quality assurance team out there that has been on kind of our eyes and ears on the ground. But yeah, I've been out there. We're actually going back in July, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed the Revol Crate is patent pending. What was that process like? Did you submit the application yourself, or did you work with an attorney?
No, we worked with some pretty good attorneys out in they're Atlanta-based, a company called Kilpatrick Townsend. They're one of these like white shoe law firm type things. Really big. They specialize in IP. We had PhD in mechanical engineering work on the submission. So we first did what's called a provisional application, then we did what's called a PCT application, which is an international patent application. Mm-hmm. So it's been 3 years pending. So it takes that long to get your full approval. But so far no pushback. We have very broad, what are called utility patent, claims. So we're thinking we're gonna have pretty broad protection.
And at what point did the snooze memory foam dog bed come into play, or was that just a natural progression?
The vision for the product. So one of the, when you think about like, how do we come up with our design, we're obviously, our whole kind of thesis around is like, you have to solve true pain points for customers. And what we found in our research is that there are a few fundamental pain points with crates that everyone experiences. So aesthetics, they look like jails. Collapsibility, transportability, they're a nightmare to move around. They pinch your fingers, dogs get injured. There's like these fundamental things that almost everybody experiences with them. But then you have this huge plethora of like other needs and wants. Mm-hmm. That, you can't solve everything, you can't, otherwise you would end up with a Swiss Army knife that's like, tries to do everything, but doesn't do anything well.
Right.
So we took the opinion, and you see this in a lot of consumer products, like, I don't know if you're familiar with like the Big Green Egg barbecue, or these very kind of customizable products where they have like a huge line of accessories that help you kind of create the product that you want, each individual. Mm-hmm. And obviously generating higher lifetime value with the customer. So we took the view that if we make this customizable, we bring the entry price point down, and kind of allow for customization for the customer. So we've always had the view that this was going to be something that is going to have a lot of accessories, and we're working on a whole bunch of them right now. So the memory foam pad was just the first one that we brought to market because it's one of the most commonly used accessories, something to make it more comfortable in a crate, and we had the means to do it for right away.
I noticed you're an engineer by training, and so you're used to putting things together, but what are maybe some of the major challenges you faced, whether it's trying to find a reputable manufacturer or even creating the prototype?
I mean, if you think about products like businesses in general that may or may not be specific to the pet industry, generally speaking, you're either going to be doing services, like physical products, or software, non-physical products, right? We went the route of physical products, which is actually in some ways the most difficult because you only get like, if software is messed up, you just change the code, right? And if our crate's messed up, it's a huge, huge problem. Like it could be recalls, it could be, injuries to dogs, it could be massive cost to change tools. So then with physical products, like a lot of people go the route of let's go to food because food is it's the biggest industry. It's, it's recurring. There's like a little bit, it's more kind of a tried and true, and it's more about formula and branding. We went the route of like physical products and innovation, which is in some ways the most complicated because you're trying to create new products that don't exist, that are untested with limited budget. So we faced a lot of challenges, right? From, what is the right kind of feature set to like, how do you find manufacturers that have, this has never been built before? How do you find a manufacturer that can actually build this in a quality way, to like, how do you raise enough money? Because like, just the molds, for something like this, which is basically the machinery to build our products, are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you have to raise a lot of money to do this, and you got to pitch a vision and an opportunity to investors. So, and every single point along the road is like, these are not minor problems. Each one of these are major problems. So it's just, in retrospect, I think like what I've taken, knowing what I know now, I would just be more prepared for the complexity of physical products that we've taken on. I think we're very lucky that we're on the back end and we have a product that people love and is working well. But I would attribute that to, frankly, a little bit of lack of insight going into this. Had I known the complexities, I'm not sure I would have done it.
I noticed you guys had a very successful Kickstarter campaign with a fantastic video that went along with it. Did you hire like an outside marketing firm to put that package together, or did you do it all in-house?
No, I think one of the big advices piece of advice I'd always give kind of potential entrepreneurs is that if you're going to be successful, you have to professionalize everything. Mm-hmm. Like there's no room for amateurism, and that includes in Kickstarter. Yeah. Like honestly, it's too competitive. You have to find ways to cut costs, but that doesn't. You still have to professionalize everything. So if you're not an expert, like if you're an engineer and you don't know anything about marketing, don't try and create a video. Don't try. Get people who know what they're doing. So yeah, we had to hire a nice video production company based in Brooklyn. They were really phenomenal to work with, and because they were excited about the project, they gave us a rate that we could afford. But yeah, you had to, they wrote, produced, directed, found the actors, canine and otherwise.
That's what I'm going to ask if the two guys who played the dogs were professional actors or just like friends of yours.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say, we definitely didn't get any A-listers. They were, probably a little bit further down the line, but no, they're technically professional actors.
Mm-hmm. No, it was great. I thought the video was fantastic.
Thanks. And then as far as the actual page and the marketing, yeah, we had a branding agency do the page design. We had marketers do like the advertising associated with the campaign.
And since the Kickstarter, I guess I should say, have you sought outside funding, whether venture funding or from friends and family?
Yeah, so we've raised 2 rounds. And look, I'll be honest. I think in some instances, if you are, if for the right product, or very often it's repeat kind of Kickstarter makers, you can get some really nice kind of pre-order, kind of campaigns or really big raises on Kickstarter. There's no question. I think for the majority of people, for every dollar you get out of Kickstarter, you're putting in 50 cents, 70 cents. Like, Kickstarter is not, especially for a product of our complexity and the amount of investment required to bring it to market, like literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in working capital and inventory, in machinery and prototyping. Like you can't rely on Kickstarter to bring that to market. There's just no way you can. You have to raise outside capital, whether it's friends and family or from professional investors.
So any last parting wisdom for either a current pet industry founder or even a would-be pet industry founder?
I think, plan for a longer, more complicated road ahead than like you think on the surface, mm-hmm. But don't be shy to take the risk and the plunge, because it's a really fun experience.